friends. So today I'm bringing you a video about the cost of living for a student in US, especially a PhD student. Now this video was requested, and as I promised, I'm bringing this video to you, and I hope you find it informative. So let's get started. Now, the first major expense as a student would be your house rent. So you could, either rent a house or you could rent an apartment. As a student, since you're in a limited budget, I probably would suggest that you share your apartment or you share the house. Now it's up to you, how many people you would like to, have or share with. You could have 2 people sharing, you and somebody else, or you could have 3, 4, and so on. So obviously the more people sharing, the cost, that you have to pay, the rental cost that you have to pay would decrease. But, then there are all the negativities too. So it's up to you. Now let's say you're sharing an apartment with someone. Then in that case, your rent would be like around $500. So that would be your share that you have to pay. Now again, as I said, the price could be high or low. So if you're living in a city, a big city, obviously, the rent would be higher. So it could be a couple of $100 higher than this. But if you're living in a small city, it could be around $500 or a little bit lesser, a few hundred dollars less. So it all depends. So when I'm going to go ahead and give you a list, I'm trying to, give you like an average. And how, if you're trying to save the maximum you're trying to save as a student, then how much it's going to cost you. So rent would be around $500. That's what you will have to pay if you're sharing it. Now the next major expense would be your water and electricity bill. So water and electricity bill, I would say, would be around like $50 per month. Then you have medical insurance. Now you need to have a medical insurance in US because if you get sick and you don't have a medical insurance, you will be in a really bad state. Now, medical insurance is expensive in US, and it could be, for a student, it could be anything between $300 to about $800, depending upon, once again, which university you are doing your doctorate or your PhD. Now, some universities, they, help you out. They'll give a part of this health insurance or medical insurance pay, and you'll pay some percentage or some part of it. And some universities also, it is free also for the students. So it all depends upon, from university to university. So the best thing is to check with them, like, how much do you need to pay and how much help are you getting from them. After that, besides medical insurance, so I'm going to go ahead, when I'm going to go ahead and calculate, I'm going to calculate it around to be $300. Now, after that, the next major expense is the food. Now, as a student, you have, 2 options. Either, of course, you cook at home, or the next option is to eat outside. Now, if you cook at home, you're going to save quite a bit of money. But if you plan to eat outside, then if you eat, in a fast food restaurant, when I say fast food restaurant, I mean like McDonald's or Subway, then in that case, I would say that for every day, your cost of eating out would be around $20 to $25 a day, which would bring it to around like $750 a month. So that's pretty, big amount, I would say. But if you plan to eat at home, you've got so much option. You can, if you're a good cook, I guess you could cook out in the house and, save some money. Or else, as a student, the other good option would be, making sandwiches, peanut butter, jelly sandwiches and things like that. And then, obviously your food cost would really bring that, $750 amount down. So that's one way to save a little bit more money. Now, the next important thing is transportation. Now, if you are in a big city and the transportation system is good, then you can probably, survive without a car. However, if it's a small city, the likelihood is that the transportation system would not be that great. In that case, you will have to buy a car. Now, if you buy a new car, then obviously, it's going to be really expensive. But I would, suggest that you buy a second-hand car or a used car. And the price, the approximate price of a used car would be around, let's say about $3,500 if it's a couple of years old. If you have a car, then you need to also have insurance, for the car insurance. Now, for a new car, the car insurance would be like $500 for 6 months. Whereas if you have an old car, then your car insurance would be around $250 for 6 months. So another good way of, saving some money is buying a used car. It's cheaper and the car insurance would also be lower. The next thing is, now if you have a car, then obviously you have to buy gas, petrol, right? So I would say that in that case, your monthly cost on gas, petrol per month would be like $50 per month, I guess. And if you are planning not to buy a car and you are planning on using, public transportation, then I would say that it would cost you around $10 to $15 every day for transportation, using public transportation. Now, as a student, you would also need internet. And if you plan to buy, if you plan not to, spend too much money on an internet, get basic one, it would be around like $40, I would say. And then cell phone. Now, that is a necessity. You can't, live without a cell phone in the US. So if you take, the minimum plan, which is comfortable enough and, not too lavish again, as I said, then it would be around $40 again. If you plan to have cable in your apartment, you're someone who likes to, watch TV. So you'll have to subscribe to a cable. And that would probably be a monthly cost of around $50. I mean, I'm talking about, the lowest minimum when you're as a student, since you're in a limited budget. The next thing after that would be, okay, now this important thing is that when I'm calculating all this, the total when I give you, now I'm not including the tuition that you have to pay as a student. So that is separate. So if you add up all these expenses, because these are the, main expenses that one incurs as a student. So the cost would be around like, something close to about $2,000. Now, mind you, this is a ballpark. It's an estimate and approximate. So this is not an exact amount. It all depends. It could be a couple of $100 more or a couple of, even $1,000 more, depending upon, how you plan to live. So it also depends upon, which university you're going in. Because obviously, if you're going to one of the top universities, they're going to be much more expensive. Okay, so living cost would be this. Again, it also depends upon, where you are planning to study, which city. Is it a small city or a big city? So if you are in a big city, if your university is in a big city, then obviously all these costs, your electricity, water bill, your rent for apartment, even transportation, all these things would be slightly higher than what I have quoted. But however, if you are planning to, do your studies in a small city, then all these costs would be slightly less than what I've quoted. So it all depends. The plus point of being in big city would be that, the transportation hopefully would be good. So then, you don't have to spend money on buying a car. However, other expenses, get higher for, as I said, your house, renting a house becomes expensive and things like that. So you need to keep that in mind. So in the end, I would probably say that your monthly, cost would be close to about $2,000 as a PhD student. And however, I would also like to tell you that, all these universities, if you're planning to do your PhD in US, these universities are giving lots of facilities to students in order, since education is really expensive in US, there are facilities that are being provided so they are able to, pay for this, for their studies. So there are a number of fellowships also available in the universities. You have research fellowships, you have teaching fellowship and assistant fellowships and things like that. So every university, you'll have to check with the university to find out, what fellowships or options and, other stuff, they give you. But those are available and they help you in, paying your tuition. Also, some universities, they're also giving like, free health, primary care and mental care coverage. So things like that are also available in these universities. You get stipend. So that helps in, studying as well as, paying for it and living there. So in the end, I would say that for about 12 months, a PhD student's cost of living would be around $30,000. It could be, little bit less or a little bit more depending upon which university you're going into, but it's going to be close to $30,000, not including your tuition. Now, the tuition probably would be around like, 40,000. Now again, it could be more or less depending upon are you going to one of the top universities or you're going to a smaller university. So again, the cost would be, more or less. So I hope that this video helped in answering some of your questions and giving you a, general idea of as a student, how expensive or how much would it cost to live and study here. If you liked my video and you found it informative, give it a thumbs up and do subscribe to my channel if you're new and hit that bell icon. It's going to notify you of all the new videos that I'm going to go ahead and post in near future. So till then, take care and I'll see you again in the next video soon. Bye-bye.